Welcome to This Explainer. Today, we're diving into the absolute clandestine side of American innovation. We usually think of the patent system as this big public bulletin board, right? A place where inventors proudly show off their breakthroughs to the world, and in exchange, they get exclusive rights. But there's actually a hidden vault within the system. We're going to look at how cutting-edge ideas, specifically military patents, are legally locked away, completely hidden from the public, all in the name of national security.
To put the sheer scale of this hidden vault into perspective, right now, at this exact moment, 6,543 inventions are literally forbidden from public view. They're locked under active United States secrecy orders. Think about that. If you happen to invent one of these restricted technologies, you could face severe penalties. We're talking actual prison time just for talking about your very own creation. Wild, right?
Which brings us to our first main area, the secret patent vault, and how the government actually controls innovation.
So how did this massive vault of suppressed technology even come to exist, and why on earth is it growing so fast today? Because make no mistake, this isn't just some dusty relic of the Cold War. The government actually slapped 356 new secrecy orders on patents in fiscal year 2024 alone. That is a massive spike compared to just 61 back in 2021. And this sharp escalation, it's heavily driven by modern geopolitical tensions. Basically, the government is rapidly mobilizing to lock down any technological advantage across key competitive domains. They're practically turning domestic patent law into a strategic defense weapon.
The legal authority to actually suppress these inventions traces all the way back to temporary wartime measures during World War I, when oversharing certain ideas was seen as incredibly dangerous. The government expanded this during World War II, evaluating over 11,000 patents for secrecy. But the absolutely crucial turning point was 1951. With the Invention Secrecy Act, those temporary emergency measures were cemented into permanent peacetime law. And as we'll see in just a bit, the 2013 America Invents Act threw a massive wrench into this whole system.
Let's lift the hood on this. Here's how invention secrecy works, taking a look inside the bureaucratic machinery.
How exactly does an everyday patent, maybe filed by some unsuspecting inventor working away in their garage, end up classified as a literal state secret? Well, it happens through a very strict, three-step bureaucratic machine. First, every single patent filed in the U.S. goes through a screening process at the U.S. Patent and Trademark Office. If an examiner spots something in a sensitive category, think radar, advanced materials, or propulsion, they flag it. Then, step 2. Defense agencies like the Navy, Army, or Air Force take a look. If they decide that making this public threatens national security, we hit step 3. They recommend an immediate freeze, and the Commissioner for Patents officially issues a secrecy order.
If an invention gets flagged, it gets locked down under one of 3 specific types of secrecy orders. Type 1 basically restricts exporting the tech to foreign countries. Pretty straightforward. Type 2 is for technical data that is already classified, and it requires the inventor to sign a strict Department of Defense security agreement. But Type 3? That is the general secrecy order. It's the big one. It completely prevents the disclosure of the invention to literally anyone without explicit written consent from the government.
This leads us to a big question: the cost of hidden tech and how it's severing the innovation tree.
We really have to ask, what happens to human progress when breakthrough ideas are suddenly hidden in the dark? For a long time, the cost was mostly theoretical. But empirical analysis of declassified records from World War II reveals something staggering. Formerly suppressed inventions received 15% fewer forward citations than unclassified patents from that exact same era. Now, in the patent world, citations are everything. They're how we measure follow-on innovation, how one great idea sparks the next. This data proves, for a fact, that state secrecy actively severs the branches of the domestic innovation tree, permanently stunting commercial and scientific utility. It's like snipping a bud before it can ever bloom.
And here's the kicker. The burden of this suppression isn't shared equally. It falls incredibly hard on private creators who get slapped with what are called John Doe secrecy orders. These are harsh restrictions forced onto private inventors who have absolutely no government affiliation, no government funding, nothing. Scholars point out that these orders are highly constitutionally suspect because they act as a prior restraint on free speech. They leave unsuspecting independent inventors totally technologically isolated and legally barred from profiting off their very own breakthroughs. Imagine inventing something amazing and being told you can't even talk about it? This creates a really stark paradox. On one side, you've got the private inventor facing total technological isolation and bearing the entire financial loss. But on the exact opposite side, you have the sovereign military portfolio.
the government is out there building these massive, highly protected networks of military patents. And the ironic part, these state-funded military technologies are explicitly built and designed to eventually be licensed right back to the commercial sector for a tidy profit.
Let's flip the coin and look at this dynamic. From military to commercial, the dual-use technology pipeline.
So how do these sovereign military patent portfolios actually end up driving the commercial technology that you and I use every single day? Well, the Department of the Navy is the absolute powerhouse here. They sponsored 63 new orders for fiscal year 2025 alone, making them the most prolific patent holder in the entire federal government. They manage thousands of critical patents, everything from advanced acoustics to next-gen navigation. It forms this massive repository of dual-use technology, meaning it's built for the military, but it has huge civilian potential too.
Probably the greatest example of this military-to-civilian pipeline is something you likely use today, GPS. Back in 1964, Roger Easton, a brilliant physicist at the Naval Research Laboratory, had a massive revelation. He famously noted, "The idea of using satellite-carried precise clocks for three-dimensional navigation came to me out of the blue in 1964. That single spark of an idea, born deep inside a restricted military lab, went on to fundamentally change the entire modern world."
Easton's early work actually focused on tracking non-radiating satellites, and that led to some incredible breakthrough military patents in space surveillance systems. As you can see, his early designs included these highly sensitive interferometer receiving stations. At the time, this was a deeply classified military capability, fiercely protected by the government so our adversaries couldn't get their hands on it.
But from those early, heavily restricted sketches, the technology eventually evolved into real, physical hardware, specifically the navigation technology satellite you see right here. This satellite demonstrated the crucial time navigation concepts that form the absolute technological foundation for the GPS network. The exact same network that currently guides everything from the smartphone in your pocket to massive global shipping fleets. It perfectly highlights how restricted military patents can, eventually, ignite massive civilian economic growth once they're uncaged.
But things are changing fast. This brings us to the modern security dilemma and the patent paradox of the 21st century.
Managing this pipeline of military and commercial tech today is honestly harder than ever. Remember the America Invents Act of 2013 I mentioned earlier? Well, it created a massive loophole, a true patent paradox. The act actually gives inventors a one-year public disclosure grace period before they officially file their patent. So think about what that means. An inventor might publish their research online, show off their tech to Silicon Valley investors, or present it at a massive global conference, and then file the patent months later. By the time the Patent Office reviews it and finally issues a secrecy order, the cat's already out of the bag. The technical data has legally been distributed worldwide. The secret is completely out. Because the patent system can't fully contain the spread of information anymore, the US government is completely shifting its strategy. They are pushing security measures much, much further upstream. Now, we're seeing major crackdowns on open, fundamental academic research. Through directives like NSPM 33 and the Biosecure Act, the government is heavily scrutinizing university funding, international academic collaborations, and foreign biotech partnerships. Basically, the humble university laboratory has become the brand new frontline for national security.
Which leaves us with a truly profound tension between protecting the state and advancing human knowledge. With exactly 6,543 brilliant ideas currently locked away in a government vault and academic science under increasing surveillance, we really have to ask ourselves, is the protection of national security worth the cost of slowing down global human innovation? It's an incredibly delicate balance, and how we navigate it is absolutely going to define the next century of technological progress. Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer. Keep asking those big questions.